Okay, so I made a bracha already. I'm just going to take a drink, and we'll begin. So, holach ma'anya. So when we start the Magid, so we hold up the lechem oini, the poor man's bread. Now, what do we learn from this? Many things, but I'm going to say over a few things tonight from Reb Moshe Sternbuch, Shlita, the Rav of the Eidah Charedis in Yerushalayim in Eretz Yisrael, the author of the Moedim Mizmanim and the Sefer Shalos Teshuvos V'Hanhagos. So I'll just start off with him, and then I'm going to range around to many, many different Sfarim. So he says, what's the lesson from Lechem Oini? We're going to try to do a lot of lessons tonight. And my goal is, Rabbi, say, to say over things that you can say over at the Seder, and that are more or less Shavim L'chol Nefesh for the old and young. The young will be understanding it on one level, and as we get older, hopefully, the people will understand it even deeper and more profoundly. So, what did we learn from Lach Ma'anya? So when we left Mitzrayim, he says an interesting chiddush. He says that we had histapkus. Histapkus is a midah. It's brought in the Mesillas Yesharim and all the other Sifrei Musar of being satisfied with what we have. You know, Ezeo Asher Sameach B'Chelkai, and what this means is that we didn't have bread. We only had matzah. And we didn't complain. And bread is usually better than matzah. People like bread better. You know, the pasuk says, we need spirituality, but the major food in the olden days, the staple of life was bread. And certainly when we left Mitzrayim. But instead, we were happy to have matzah. And there's a little bit of a lesson over here that I think this year, and I'm going to, forgive me for harping on it a little bit, Corona has taught us something else also. We don't have the wider life that we've wanted over these last few days. We're not going to have it over Yom Tov either, apparently, although every day is new. Bais Hashem Yisbarach. We could be mitzapel Yeshua, and certainly hope that Kadosh Baruch will send us the Yeshua in time for Pesach. I understand that the President of the United States is very optimistic, but apparently nobody else around him is. So b'derech hateva, we might be doing this for Yom Tov. So histapkus means, A, being happy with what we have, and lechem oini, they were very poor when we left Mitzrayim, but they were happy to leave Mitzrayim. They knew that they're alive, they're going to something better, and maybe we should think about that also. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, Kadosh Baruch Hu is giving us life. B'chol hachayim yadu chosela. They should help that everybody that needs life should have life. We said Tehillim just before by the previous year, so I'm not going to do it again. But please, everybody, continue to daven for the various chaylim in our neighborhood, in our Kehillas. And this is a lesson about not needing things, not requiring things that are be'etzem unnecessary. And we all learned some very serious lessons from this. Now, Lechem Oini says, we said like this, that our forefathers ate. What's the lesson of our forefathers? By the way, I will take questions later on, but I think I'm going to go fast through the Haggadah as much as we can do, and I'm going to leave because I do have a rabbinic phone conference tonight. So I'm going to be going, let's say, till about another half an hour or so. Be'ez Hashem, if you can take a half an hour, then I'll take questions, or if you want to add to something that I said, something a better shot. So why the Achol Avastana? That our forefathers ate. So there's a famous story. I think everybody in our neighborhood knows the story. First of all, I've told it, and you probably heard it from Rabbi Mordechai Kamenetsky, who heard it from his father, Rabbi Yamin Zatzal. But it's kedai to repeat it on this particular part of the Haggadah. And that is that we are people that we don't worship our ancestors like the many people in the Far East do, but we revere them. There's a big difference because we believe in Yeridas Cedarhurst. The generations are going down, not up, and therefore we believe, and we're going to see it in a moment, not in evolution, but in a certain sense, in devolution. We're not going up, we're going down. So this is the quick story. Everybody knows the story. I'm just going to add a couple of details. That Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, whose yahrzeit just passed, was on a plane coming back from Eretz Yisrael with a member of the Knesset. And they were having a lot of debates that they were put together. Nobody asked them to sit together, but they were having debates for hours and hours and hours. And then during the time, it was like 10, 11 hours on the plane, especially in those days, and Rabbi Yaakov's children and grandchildren were coming to take care of him, bring him a drink, bring him his slippers, etc., etc. Tati, Zaidi, are you doing okay? The other fellow's children had disappeared. So finally, he said to Rabbi Yaakov right before they were landing, he said, you know, I didn't convince you of anything, you didn't convince me of anything. So neither of us won the debate. But one thing you won, hands down, and that is somehow or other you trained your children to have respect for you. My children disappeared for the whole 11 hours. I don't know if they're sleeping or reading or what, but they're not with me. What did you do? So Rabbi Yaakov told him very, very simply. He said, you know, you're a wonderful man, and I enjoyed talking to you. But you told me during the conversation when we're having our little debates and dialogues that you believe in evolution. We don't. So we believe that we come from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, who are much greater than us. And we come from Moshe Rabbeinu, who was much greater than us. And anybody that was closer to Har Sinai is greater than somebody that's further from Har Sinai. So my children and grandchildren know that I'm one step or two steps closer to Har Sinai. But you're closer to an ape, because that's what you've taught them or you've allowed them to learn, to study. Evolution, that means that you're closer to an amoeba or a microbe. Today we're talking about microbes a lot, but certainly to an ape. And why should they give you any reverence, any respect? On the contrary, you should probably give them respect. So that's what we say over here, the acholu avasana. So listen to one of the Mefarshim says, she'ein anu ke'umay sa'olam, she'emitzayrim la'atzmam. We're not like the nations that imagine themselves that the atzmam esavisayim, they depict their ancestors. So you proyavan shibar v'loyedu. They don't know anything. Anyway, so he goes on, and he says, "Professorim she'adam le'nivra ka'adam rakutolda mikayf." He says that we come from monkeys. Anyway, that's why we say avasana. Avasana means that even though they made some mistakes in Mitzrayim, you know, they were memtesh sharituma, and they were Ovid Avodah Zarah, and they did other things. But when they came out of it, out of the memtesh sharituma, they got the Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu, from the Rabbeinu Shalom. They were on a very high madrega, much higher than we will ever be. That's the achalu avasana. Now, then we say like this. I'm going to skip a little bit because I want to do some very important things. We're going to go to the Manishtana. So the Manishtana fulfills a Gemara. The Gemara says in Psachim that you're supposed to go derech she'ela utshuva, questions and answers. So therefore, the Mishnah says questions. Manishtana alayla zeh shebachalaleilos, etc., etc. So my Rebbe will do a quick Pachad Yitzchak. My Rebbe, the Pachad Yitzchak, says that what is derech she'ela utshuva? It's going from darkness into light. When a person has a question, he's in a state of darkness. When a person goes and he hears the answer, and it's a good answer, and he's makabel, he accepts the answer, so he says, oh, now I see the light. And that's the Or Gadol that we spoke about a little bit a couple of days ago, I think when we last did this on Monday, the Or Gadol of Pesach. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh says a tremendous chiddush in Shemais. He says, if you want, I'll give you the exact citation in a moment. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh says that we have to remember, it's a part of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, that we went me'afela li'or gadol, and we saw a tremendous light when we left Mitzrayim. So nobody knows where you got that from. It's the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, so we accept it. We'll talk about that in a moment, what we accept. So Manishtana is derech she'ela utshuva. But now it's even more than that, because what we're saying over here is that who's asking? So who's asking, and whom are we asking? So we're asking the older generation, and the minhag always was in Klal Yisrael that the grandpa, the Zaidi, the Saba, he ran the Seder because we look up to him. Why do we look up to him? Maybe the son, maybe his son is a big Talmid Chacham. Could be. Happens all the time. But on the other hand, the Zaydi is one step closer to Har Sinai. And now, what about Manishtana? So there's a fascinating shot from the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov says that what do we have to take away from Yetzias Mitzrayim, from all of Sefer Shemais and from the Seder, and Muna Pshuta. And the Baal Shem HaKadosh was at a very high madrega. The Baal Shem Tov, wow, we can't even imagine what he was. But the Baal Shem HaKadosh, he taught us, Vayar, Klal Yisrael saw everything, and then, Vayaminu Hashem of Moshe Avdai. They had Emunah. That wasn't an Emunah with Kabbalah, with fancy stuff. It was an Emunah we believe. And that's what we have to come back from Pesach with. And I mentioned this in another shiur, that the Chassid Yavitz was one of the people that left Spain, was kicked out of Spain in 1492 with the Abarbanel. And the Chassid Yavitz kept a journal. And in his journal, he writes that the fancy people, the professors, the intellectuals, let's call them, they very often gave up their religion, not on purpose, but when it was a choice between, your religion or your life, they said, okay, forget about the religion. And they converted to Catholicism, to Christianity. But the plain people who knew that you got to give up your life, they just simply gave up their lives. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov said. That's the Maila of Emunah Pshuta. And what we learned from the Manishtana is that we're talking to children, but we're also talking to ourselves. I'm going to skip a little bit now to the answer. So there's a story with the Chafetz Chaim. The Chafetz Chaim once went to a doctor, and Chafetz Chaim also went to a doctor. He was a regular, person in that way. He wasn't regular in any other way. He had to go to the doctor. Went to the doctor. Went to a Jewish doctor, but the doctor was having a little bit of trouble with Zemuna because this was during a period where there were pogroms in Europe, and the pogroms were terrible. And the doctor all of a sudden said to the Chafetz Chaim, said, I don't really understand why God is doing this. And I'm saying this, Badafka, we all understand why. We're going through a very difficult period. And there are people that have been asking, what is this all about? And not that I have the answer, but I have this Chafetz Chaim. So the Chafetz Chaim, and I have it in front of me, the lashon that the Chafetz Chaim said. So the doctor said, believe me, I'm starting to question if there's a God. So I'll skip most of the rest of the story, but the Chafetz Chaim said to the doctor, well, I'm starting to question if you're a doctor. As the doctor laughed, said, take a look at the board, take a look at my wall. There's a certificate over there. I graduated from a good medical school. Probably wasn't, Harvard or Yale, but it was a medical school. So the Chafetz Chaim looked at it very closely. He said, wait a minute, that was 40 years ago. How do I know you're still a doctor? He said, well, what do you mean? We only have to pass that test once. Maybe today it's a little bit different. I don't know. There's, continuing medical credits, but, like in law and in medicine and other fields. But in those days, you took the test once, you graduated, that's it, you're a doctor. So he said, 40 years ago. So that's good enough. He said, let me explain to you how Judaism works. The Rabbi Shalom showed us once, 3,000 years ago, that he can do miracles. And he did miracles for us. And he did 10 miracles in a row in front of how many people? So some people say it was 3 million people. Some people say it was 5 million people because it was 600,000 Shishim Ribai plus young people and old people over and above those ages. And all the women could be 3 to 5 million people for sure. They all saw, says the Kuzari, the same thing. They all saw all the miracles, and they saw Kriyas Yamsuf, and then they saw the miracles of Matan Torah just a few weeks later, 49 days later. So what does that mean? We don't need to have a new proof that God is great. What we have to do is to have Emunah Pshuta, like we said before, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what he's doing, and then we'll find out. One of these days we'll find out. So I mentioned this in the previous shiur, but I just want to mention again very briefly that when Moshe Rabbeinu came and said we're getting out, so one of the naysayers said, the Medrash brings this, that we can't be getting out because it's only 210 years since we got here, and Hashem said it's 400. So Moshe, what are you saying, that God's a liar? So Moshe Rabbeinu went back to Hashem, we went back and forth. But meanwhile, we learned that the fact that we were in pain and suffered so much got us out earlier. 190 is Kates. That's the 190 years that we got out earlier, and it was Redu in the year 210. Everything fits, because the Rebbeinu Shalom had a plan. And that's really what the entire Seder is all about. It's a Seder. There's an order. As we mentioned on Monday, all the Kaddish or Chatz orders teach us that the Rebbeinu Shalom knows what he's doing. And that's something that we have to teach our children, etc. Now, there's a famous question. It says, if you lost me, I'm still in Avodah Mayinu right after the Manishtana. But if you have a Haggadah, it's great to look in. So the Haggadah says, and I'll explain everything even if you're not looking into a Haggadah. So the question is, how do we know that we would still be slaves to Paro and Mitzrayim? Maybe there would have been a revolution, as is normal, over hundreds of years, not just thousands. We're talking about 3,300 years plus. Nobody would have overthrown the pharaohs. They did get overthrown. We know that today there was Mubarak and this one and that one, and Isi and Si and all these different people. They're not pharaohs. And Egypt claims it's a democracy. It's not. It's clearly some kind of a theocracy, maybe, or it's certainly a dictatorship. But it's not good. But Mila, there's no Paro. So how could the Haggadah tell us, so we would be Meshubadim Mila Paro Mitzrayim? So there's a number of answers. One answer is that Paro was a new kind of a dictator, even in the olden days. He made himself into a god. A number of the Haftarahs associated with Pesach and the Parshiyas Shemais Va'era B'Shalach quote that Paro said, "Li Ya'iri V'Ani Asisiu." I made my I'm sorry. For instance, I own the Nile, V'Ani Asisiu, and I created it. Now you have to be a fool, a crazy person to believe that you made such a thing. And Paro apparently knew that he didn't, because he had to go to the bathroom, even though he made believe that nobody else would ever see that he has to go to the bathroom. Even a lot of people knew that he went to the bathroom. So he had this mania, that megalomania, that he's a god. But Lefaro Mitzrayim doesn't mean necessarily that Paro or this Mitzrayim. It means all of the things that people become obsessed with instead of God. Money, power, fame, all the other things, good looks, health, even these things that we all want, but it doesn't come from anybody but the Rabbi Shalom. We may think we go to somebody, and because of him we get rich, we get some money. We may go to a doctor, as we get a refuah. But somebody just recently in the medical field told me yesterday, said, I was never such a maimin. The person that's involved now in Corona, I wish him well, he should be protected. He said, I'm seeing every single day that there is a God, because some people are making it, some people are not making it, unfortunately, and it's not a medical thing, because they both came in the same symptoms, etc., etc. And there is a Rabbi Shalom. Maybe that's one of the things that the Rabbi Shalom is showing us right now. I really don't know. Okay, let's go a little bit further. So after the story with Rabbi Akiva, which we spoke about on Monday by Arichos, and Rabbi Tarfon, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Yeshua, so the Talmidim came in and they said, Rabbi said, so we see that there's some kind of a connection between the Seder and Kriya Shema. It's not just a coincidence. He didn't say, okay, guys, I don't know if he was said guys, but let's daven Shachris. He said, let's say Kriya Shema. Why? So the Mefarshim say a very interesting thing. What is Kriya Shema? So Rav Soloveitchik Zatzal always used to say that the essence of Kriya Shema is Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. And even though we're saying certain words, what those words mean is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. We're accepting Hashem's being God. Then V'hayim Shemayim, we're accepting that Hashem wants us to do mitzvahs. That's called Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim and Kabbalah Sol Mitzvahs. So after all night, talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim and recognizing that the Rabbeinu Shalom did all these things for us. And let's go back to what we said before, recognizing that even what appeared to be bad turned out to be good, and what appeared to be darkness was really light. So now we're ready to say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, not just because the dawn came. That's the most simple, maybe superficial pshat. I don't know. Maybe it's really pshat. But the deeper pshat for sure is that now we're ready to be Makabel Ol Malchus Shamayim. Now let's go a little bit further. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, we learned it in the Gemara, those that learned Daf Yomi recently in Brachos, Harei ani kiven shivim shana, I'm like 70 years old. So we all know what happened was there was a miracle, the nace happened, and remember that the Gemara in Brachos Daf Chavches, Chavzayin, Chavches, Chavtes, that Al Sugya, when they deposed Rabbi and Gamliel, and they appointed Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So he said, I'm too young. So he grew a white beard. His beard he had a beard, but it turned white. So now there's a very interesting kasha on a Rambam. We're going to do something, you can say it over. I think everybody will understand it, but maybe the children won't understand all the nuances, but all the adults will. So the Gemara says in Brachos that it was a nace, nasa lo nace. So a nace happened and he turned white. The Rambam and the Pirush HaMishnayos on that Gemara at the end of the first parak in Brachos says that what happened was Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, how did he turn white? Shalomed b'yoyim u'valayla ad ashetoshes koichoi v'nizrika boy seva kizakim ben shivim. What happened was he was learning so much that he just got old. So it sounds like it wasn't a nace. So all the Mefarshim of the Rambam asked, what happened over here? The Rambam didn't know the Gemara? Of course the Rambam knew the Gemara. So what does this mean? So the answer is, Rabbi say, that there are two types of nisim. This is the Ramban. I'm speaking out at the end of Parshas Bo, or Boy. Same Parsha, by the way. So what does the Ramban say over there? There's two types of nisim. There's the nisim that are public, that are clear that it's a nes l'mayla min hateva, supernatural. And then there's what we say in Moedim, al nisecha shebechol yoyim imanu, all the miracles that you do with us every single day. So, for instance, now, I think we're all experiencing all sorts of nisim. Maybe should help. Those that need the nisim most should get a nes, and they should have refuahs for Yeshua, Samir Hashem. But what happened was, say the Mefarshim, that really, of course, it was a nes. Even the Rambam agrees that it was a nes. But he said that after Yetzias Mitzrayim, there really weren't, in all these centuries, too many open nisim. So we always say that there's a little bit of teva, a little bit of nature, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really running it. So that's why he said over, it's in the Haggadah. The Baal Haggadah was a Tana, or some Tana, we don't know. Harei ani kiven shivim shana. And how did I become shivim shana? Well, it looked like it was just because, I was staying up too late at night and I got white. But we all know that a miracle happened so that I could be appointed when Klal Yisrael needed me to become the Nasi of Klal Yisrael. So that's what happened in Mitzrayim. There are numerous nisim that are mentioned in the Haggadah that are not in Chumash. They're not in Chumash at all. And especially by Kriyas Yamsuf, it says it became 250 nisim. But all those nisim, and by the way, every Makkah had many, many little nisim inside. Because when HaKadosh Baruch Hu does something for us, even when it's not, doesn't really seem like something great, it's done b'derech hateva, so it looks like it's just happening, but it's really the Rabbi Shalom. And that's one of the things that we say in the beginning of the Haggadah, is that Harei kiven shivim shana, that what appeared to be a little nace was really a very big nace. Okay, now, let me move on a little bit. It says, so now this means that when Yemaisa Mashiach comes, and Mashiach comes, we're also going to tell about Yetzias Mitzrayim. Now this is also a very difficult thing, because it seems from some Mefarshim, based upon the Midrashim, and the Rambam brings this in a few places, that it sounds like we won't celebrate all the Yom Tovim. Because the Rambam says that Purim will never go away, and Megillas Esther will never go away, but it sounds like other things will go away. So Mepharshim say, no, chas v'shalom. We'll have all the miracles, but we're going to have just the miracles and the mitzvahs that come out of them. So, for instance, what are the mitzvahs that come out of Yetzias Mitzrayim? Tefillin, Kiddush, Matzah, Pesach. So, the Nisim, well, there'll be bigger Nisim when Mashiach comes. There'll be tremendous Nisim. The war of Gog and Magog. Maybe Mitzvah Hashem surviving coronavirus. But there'll be very big Nisim. But on the other hand, we will remember Pesach because some mitzvahs come out of it. And that's why we'll always remember, Chas v'shalom, never forget the mitzvahs that grew out of Yetzias Mitzrayim, even though the miracles, those 10 makkos, and even Kriyas Yamsuf will be eclipsed by the miracles of Mashiach. Now let's do Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu. This is a little bit, I'm treading on carefully on very difficult ground. Why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu called HaMakom? We know Le'aleinu, when we have to go be Menachem Avol, we all say HaMakom Menachem Eschem. HaMakom is one of the kinuyim for Hashem, just like there's a kinui for Hashem, Hamarachem, right? Chanun, these are kinuyim. Shalom, some Rishonim say, is also one of the names of Hashem. We have to be very careful that we say Shalom Aleichem. We shouldn't say it in a place where we're not allowed to say it, right? A bathroom, for instance. So why do we say Hamakom? So the answer is that we're saying to the Avelim, Kadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. And in case you thought, and you thought right, that this is a terrible tragedy. You lost a very close loved one. But it's not as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not there. Kadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. In fact, we are, so to speak, in Hashem. Kadosh Baruch Hu is Mekaymai Shel Olam, Chazal say, V'loi ha'olam Mekaymai Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere, as Uncle Maishi taught us, right? I got to give you some very, very basic sources, right? Uncle Maishi. So what do we learn from over here? Is that when we see that the Rosh is making fun, he says, what is this all about? So what do we say to him? Because this is where we introduce the 4 sons, and we're worried about what the Rosh says. So the Maril Diskin, Reb Shulei Diskin said on this keta, this section of the Haggadah, he said that we see, he says, I don't even understand why there's Rishoyim in the world. How can there be Rishoyim? It's so open and clear that there's a God. But he said, even that there's Rishoyim in the world, so Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted people to have free will, so he created the ability for people to fool themselves and to have free will. But he didn't force them. And he says that when we say the Haggadah, that's one of the things we want to say to ourselves. Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu, Baruch Shenosan Torah L'Am Yisrael. He gave it to us and to every one of us. And now we're going to see something very positive. Echad Chacham ve'echad Rasha. So at the end, we're going to say about the Rasha, Hakei Yashinov, knock out his teeth. We'll get to that in a moment. But one of the amazing things about the Rasha is, and the Baditchev, if I'm not mistaken, was the first one that said this to Kedushas Levi, but he's at the table. We don't kick anybody out. If there are children, they're loyalenu off the derech. There are children that are not what we want them to be, but they're at our table. And this year, when sometimes all we have at our table is our immediate family, we should learn to cherish them and to love them. If they're a chacham, if they're a rasha, if they're a tam, or if they're an eni yedei lishol. But let's go deeper into it for a moment. It says echad chacham ve'echad rasha. So everybody has the kasha. It should have said echad chacham ve'echad tipish. What's the opposite of a chacham? Is somebody that's not smart. And the Yerushalmi Taka has such a girsa. But on the other hand, our girsa, most of our Haggadah says echad chacham ve'echad rasha. There's a chacham, there's a rasha. Why are those the two opposites? So the answer is, it's based upon Rabbi Chanan Wasserman Zatzal, and that is that everybody can discover Hashem easily if we just chase away our Yetzer Hara. Rabbi say it's the first mimer in Rabbi Chanan's Kaibetz Mamorim. If you're saying this over at the Seder, you can quote it and sound smart, okay? You'll know that it's the first Rabbi Chanan. Rabbi Chanan asks Sakasha, says, okay, male Jews. So we go to yeshiva, we learn this, we learn that. But let's say a Gentile comes up to Shemayim, and they're going to say to him, I don't know where he got this from, but it might be a medrash. I'm not sure. They're going to say to him, okay, Yavan or John or whatever it is. I hope I'm not offending anybody. How come you didn't keep your Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach? He said, "What do you mean? I didn't kill anybody. I didn't do this. I didn't that." They're going to say to him, "Yeah, but you know, you ate Eva Min Achai. You ate a lobster when it was alive, or chunks of it." She said, "Well, I didn't know." I said, "You didn't know. You should have known better." So, Farshim say on this, what do you mean he should have known better? He never went to school. He certainly never went to yeshiva, and they didn't teach him this in school, the Sheva Mitzvahs. So Rabbi Chana says that it's so clear that there's a God, and that he's our God, and that he's the Rabbeinu Shalom, that even a Gentile is supposed to go look for what his obligations are. And that's the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach. So now it goes a little bit further. So he says, so why are there mistakes? How come people don't know what's the truth? The answer, says Rabbi Chana, is because we have taivas. And this is not just Jews, it's not just Gentiles, it's everybody in the world. We rationalize. What does it mean? We say, that's only a chumrah, that's that right-wing rabbi, that Meshugana, that's really not in the Chumash. It was made up by some Achron. Whatever our rationalization is, because we want to do what we want to do. So that's why we pair the Chacham with the Rasha. You have to be a Chacham. That's what we learned from the Haggadah. Now, let's go a little bit further. So the Chacham says, why do we have all these rules that HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught us? So the Chacham, first of all, understands that everything's a chayk. He says, so even though he says Eschem, but he says Hashem Elokeinu, there's all kasha about why he even says Eschem. But I'm not going to go into that right now, because he understands that everything is to us is something that's not quite comprehensible. We sometimes understand a little bit more, sometimes understand a little bit less. Now, what do we learn from the answer to the Chacham? What does that teach us? So some say it's just a very cute little pshat. I believe that the Gross says it also, that the nusach of the Haggadah really was, what do we say to the Ben HaChacham? And more like Kehillas HaPesach. So Ad ein maftir achar Pesach Afikaimen, because the end of Psachim is that you're not allowed to eat anything after the Afikaimen. So that means tell them everything, but it's not what it says in most of our Haggadahs. So why do we tell them about the Afikaimen? What's so special about it? So the answer is, the Mefarshim tell us, is that the Afikaimen, why can't we eat after the Afikaimen? Because we have to go to bed with the taste of matzah in our mouth. That's what we have to come away from Pesach, with the taste of emunah in our mouth, the taste of bitachon in our mouth, the taste of belief, of faith, and of all the other things that we're going to learn in the Haggadah. Now let's go back to the Rasha. So by the Rasha, it doesn't say ki yishalcha. By all the other sons, it says, they asked the question. Rasha mahu oimer. He's telling us. So, you're dealing with a Rasha. So now we have to know how to deal with a Rasha. So it's very interesting. If we look at the pasuk, it says V'haya ki yaimru alechem b'nechem. The pasuk in the Torah that introduces the Rasha is, your children will tell you. So there's two things to note over there. Number one is yaimru is plural, and second of all is that they're telling us, like I said before. So why plural? Because they come in gangs. They come in groups. The groups can be called this and could be called that, all those that are Rishayim. But they never come alone. They come, they form themselves into a group. They say, we believe, but we don't believe this and we don't believe that. So we say to them, listen to how we answer them. We say, we don't argue with you at all. But what we say is, and look at the psukim that came in the Torah right before the Rasha. It says in the pasuk that we don't argue with him. We say, that's what God said. That's why parents very often, or imitating Hashem, say, because I told you so. That's a lesson to children. I told you so. A child has to learn to listen. Now, obviously, as the kids get older, we have to teach them, explain to them, etc. But a little child has to know that's what mommy said, that's what Tati Abba said. Let's go a little bit further. So now the next pasuk right before the Rasha is Ushmartem es avodah zos. What is shmira? Shmira usually means to make a fence around something. That's what it says in Pirkei Avos, that we should make a siyag l'Torah, and we should be very, very careful. That's why by Chametz on Pesach, that's when we became a nation. We have a lot of siyagim. This year we went a little bit easy on it because of Corona, but most years we have all the chumras. Why? Because we want to make a siyag so we don't become like the Rasha. Now then, the Rasha says, "No avodah zos lechem." What are you getting out of it? So the truth is, all he cares about is what he gets out of something. He doesn't care about aliyah, growth. He doesn't care about learning. He says, "What are you getting out of this? You're not getting anything out of this." So let's go a little bit further now. So Rashi says, very strange thing. I started mentioning it before, but this is the beauty. So Rashi says on the Bein HaRasha, on that pasuk, we said that means a child that talks back to us. Not only talks back to us, he never asks us anything. So Rashi says, Besura Taiva Nisbasu Yisrael. Klal Yisrael got a Besura Taiva. That means a good tidings. They will have children and grandchildren. What? The Besura Taiva is you can have a Ben Rasha? Why didn't they put this by the Ben Tzaddik, the Chacham? So the answer here is that, again, on Pesach, we're going to bring everybody close. I started reading a little bit of the book about Rebbetzin Youngreis, Allah Shalom. Great, great, noble lady, an Isha Chashuva, an Isha Gedola. So one of the things that she did was she helped people that have children that are off the derech. And what did she tell them? Love them and then love them some more. So Hakei Shinav might be a little bit sharp, but it's metaphoric. It doesn't really mean knock out his teeth. What it means is many Mefarshim say teeth are used to chew things. And the Rasha doesn't want to hear depth. He doesn't want to hear a pshat. He doesn't want explanations. So we tell him, oh, you don't need your teeth. That means you don't want to even chew on something. So then you don't even need teeth. It's just a metaphor. So let's go a little bit further. So Ilo Haya Sham Lo Haya Nigel. If he would have been there, he wouldn't have gotten out. So what's the reason? So the reason is that the Rishayim are Kishei Eiref. They're very, very stubborn. And sometimes we're all stubborn. But we have to listen sometimes and give in so that we can get Geula. Now, Tom Ma'oimer Mazois, when the Tom says Mazois, he's not even asking a question. He says, what is this all about? So, but then we say, so the Mefarshim tell us, that's where the word Yitzias Mitzrayim comes from. Wow, from the Tam. Again, not from the Tzaddik, not from the Chacham. So listen to this amazing pshat. I saw this in many, many Sfarim. So I can't attribute it to one, but I saw it in many, many Sfarim. So we say Yitzias Mitzrayim. Isn't that a misnomer? It's a mistake. It should have said Yitziyasam, Yitziyasenu or something. Mi Mitzrayim. So what's the famous answer? The answer is that it's easy to take the Jews out of Mitzrayim, but it wasn't so easy to take Mitzrayim out of the Jews. So Reb Tzaddik HaKohen of Lublin, I happen to have the 2-volume set of the Haggadah Reb Tzaddik, and he says this over and over by every Makkah. By every Makkah, by the way, I just had a wonderful delivery. I don't even know how in the world it came. Rabbi Pesach Kron's new Haggadah, and he wrote me in the I don't know. He wrote me a very nice. Maybe if you want, I'll show it to you, Mitzvah Hashem, when we can all get close to each other. He wrote me a beautiful dedication, and he says, "See page such and such where I quoted you," because I once wrote something about the Esamakas, and I felt very, very honored. I told him so. I called him up that I'm in his book. So the Esamakas, what are they for? So I don't know if you quoted this part, but this is what the Esamakas are according to Reb Tzaddik. And you know what they're for? They're for getting Mitzrayim out of us. Because Baruch Hu could have knocked them all down. You're all dead. Come on, Jews, let's go to Eretz Yisrael. No. What was it for? Because we were obsessed with Mitzrayim. And he goes through one by one, every one of the Makkahs, how each Makkah got us to see how repugnant and disgusting Mitzrayim is in each one. I'm not going to detail it right now. I really can't, obviously. But you can look into Reb Tzaddik, or maybe we'll discuss it maybe another time. So Zeichel Litzias Mitzrayim. So that's what we learn from the Tam, because a Tam understands that, oh, I'm not supposed to be an Egyptian. Fine, I won't be an Egyptian. I'll be a Jew. But the rest of us, we all pick up things from the culture around us. So it's not just we can be complacent now and say, none of us want to be Egyptians. Yeah. But do any of us want the culture that we have absorbed and imbibed over all of our lifetimes? And sometimes it's good, sometimes very nice. We're in a Medina Shel Chesed. The United States is a wonderful place. But there are other things that we pick up, unfortunately, automatically. So that's why this is not Yitzia Mimitzrayim, it's Yitzias Mitzrayim. And this goes through the whole Haggadah because we keep saying Zeicher Yitzias Mitzrayim. Okay, let's go a little bit further. I mentioned this mitzvah of the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, that he said that you should remember the light that we all got when we left Mitzrayim. The place that he really says it is on V'yigadet levincha bayoyim hahu leimar. So what is bayoyim hahu? Why that day? Because day is light. And we should remember that it was a day that all night the light was shining. At least for us, not for Mitzrayim. Now, bayoyim hahu leimar. Now this is very important. If I may tell you this, please, and don't be offended. I tell this to my own family. Bayoyim hahu leimar. Bayomahu, what does that mean? Talmud loyme bayomahu, yibayachal b'mam Talmud loyme b'avuzeh, etc., etc. What is bayomahu leimar? So you got it to levincha bayomahu leimar. So the answer is that it means that the child should understand it so clearly. We should be so eloquent and so articulate that the child can say it over. Sometimes we go very fast through the Haggadah, and the kid doesn't understand anything. So I'll tell you what I do. Be'ezer Hashem Yisborach. I hope to do it this year as well. Be'ezer Hashem Yisborach. Not in my old venue, but at home. And that is that we say over the story and we tell the basics. And later on you'll say Pshetlach during Shulchan Aruch. The beginning is for V'yigadet lebincha, is for Yitzipur, Yitzias Mitzrayim. I don't know if you can still get one, but there are many great books that really, they're mostly for children, but they wouldn't hurt us, of Medrashim, the little Medrash says, things like that. And I forgot the name of those series of books that tell the story in a way that children can hear and adults can hear. So that means lema. Lema means so that they can Emirat Hashem tell it over. And we have to make it what's called in modern Hebrew a chavaya, an experience. The Seder should be an experience. So I don't know if you can still get it, but in our Seder we throw out the esramakas. We have little froggies and we have little, not real bugs, chas v'shalom, but little kinim and everything else. That's for the children, because if you look at the Gemara Arvei Psachim, it's all about the kids. Now, Yachol Marish Chodesh. This is very strange because I wanted to make sure we do this. We're going to finish up with 9 o'clock, and I'll see if you have any questions. So it says Yachol Marish Chodesh, Talmud loyme b'bayamahu. So you would think that you should say the Seder and see Yitzias Mitzrayim from today, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So it says Bayamahu. So what's Bayamahu? When you have Matzah Morah. So the Mefarshim say it's based upon a gra that, and this is very important, we don't stam tell maisalach. We take the stories and we show our children, we show our families, anybody that's listening to us, that we want to do mitzvahs. That's b'shoshesh matzah umor u'menachem lefanecha. So that's why, according to the Gra, now I'm not telling you what to do, because many people say the Haggadah this Shabbos from Avodah Mayinu till a certain spot over there, but the Gra didn't. Why? Because it says in the Haggadah, it says, but why not? What could be so bad? So it could be one of the Mefarshim says, and by the way, it's Rav Sternbach who is, should live and be well, a great, I think 7 generations, from the Gra. I don't remember exactly, but he goes straight from the Gra. So he says, what did the Zayda mean? What he meant was the following, that you don't just tell the story and then you don't have a mitzvah to do. So on Shabbos Haggadah, there's no mitzvah to do. It's not associated with a mitzvah. Only at the Seder. We want to show our children that when there was a nace, the nace resulted in a mitzvah. The things that a Kadosh Baruch Hu does for us are so we can do a mitzvah. And we'll just finish up this part with the Ramban. I always say over this famous Ramban, it says like this, as it says, esa'ava at shetechbats. So im ta'iru v'im ta'iru esa'ava at shetechbats. So what does that mean? If you have a sairus, you have an awakening, an arousal. And I think we've all been awakened in these last few days, each one of us, to tshuva in a different way, to be better mitzvah Hashem when we come back to shul, be better when we daven, and then with a minyan, all the things that we're going to be better mitzvah Hashem. We should try to make that commitment in our minds at least, with a b'li neder, of course. So when you have an awakening like that, right away do something about it. Right away. Says the Ramban Achetech Pots. And that's what we just learned from the Gra as well. That we don't tell stories according to the Gra, even Shabbos HaGadol. Again, feel free to do it. Most of Klal Yisrael doesn't. It's only the Chaim Balinas and the Gronics that don't do it. But either way, let's remember that the ikr of Nisim is to get us to the point where we're doing mitzvahs. Yes, stories have a purpose. The goal of the story is to get us to do mitzvahs properly. David should help. We'll decide in mitzvah Hashem if we're going to have another night of this. Maybe you'll let me know. You don't have to do it now, but if there's another opportunity, we'll finish. I don't know, we'll finish, but we'll continue with the Haggadah. But in the meantime, I just wanted to see if there's anybody that has questions on what we did, or even anything that you missed in the previous opportunities to ask shilas. Please. Okay, Baruch Hashem, it sounds good. So those that I will see in the morning for Daf, we're back in Mirz Hashem to 7:15, and Mirz Hashem tomorrow sometime. I think it went out already. Actually, I gave a little Dvar Torah for the parsha. If you want to say something over on the parsha, not that anybody needs me for the parsha, but I did send out something. I believe it's available already. If not, it'll be available tomorrow, Mirz Hashem, when it's sent out, and it's a connection to the coronavirus. They should protect us from it, and we should learn from it. That's one of the reasons I gave this Dvar Torah, something to learn from, and David should help him, Mirz Hashem. We should all have refuahs for Yeshuas, those that need it, and we should, Mirz Hashem, have a Chag Kosher v'Sameach.